We've got to do the things that we've been doing. If you look back before the pandemic, Ontario was creating more jobs in manufacturing and in the province, and we're going to continue that because Ontario is traditionally the economic engine of Canada. We have resilient people are going through this terrible pandemic, but I know that through the hardworking people we have, the diversity of talent we have in this province, cutting red tape and cutting small business taxes, for example, and doing other things in the traditional economy will be helpful of rebounding through this terrible downturn that we've suffered through.
So you'll have a budget for us, we assume, sometime in the spring. You talked about the hardworking people of the province. Brings me to mind, earlier in the day, we had an Ontario doctor on, Andrew Morris. He's an infectious disease specialist at the Sinai Health System. He was speaking earlier with Amanda Lang, and he brought up something that really caught our ear here. We worry about, of course, the hospitalizations from COVID-19. We know that money needs to be put toward the health system to make sure we have the beds, the acute care. He talked about the human capital, though, and the fact that healthcare workers are just getting exhausted in this pandemic. We know in the near term there will be challenges. We plan for the future by making better conditions for business. How do we make sure this important sector is well served for the next couple months?
Well, it's a great question. And of course, a big shout out to the incredible frontline healthcare workers and many people through the essential services that have been provided, get food on our table, take care of our long-term care. Seniors are people in hospitals. So it requires that we continue to work through this. We're getting vaccines into our arms. Ontarians are resilient. Our healthcare workers are incredible. And there's light at the end of the tunnel. I know Premier Ford, who's working around the clock to make sure that vaccines get into, the doses get administered. I was out today. General Rick Hillier, who's leading the charge on the logistics. This is our top mission, because the way that forward will be through vaccinating people in Ontario. The other way, of course, is to make sure people follow the healthcare protocols, and that's critical, because if you're not out and about, you can't really transmit the disease. So there's many things that we need to continue doing, but vaccines, job number one. Stick to the healthcare protocols, and fiscally, we'll continue to provide the fiscal supports to the healthcare workers, the fiscal supports to get us to when we can resume a more normal life and a healthy economy.
Minister, when you talk about supporting small businesses, which Premier Ford has been, very vocal on, when we continue to see the prolonged effects of the pandemic, and I'm specifically really referring to small businesses, gyms, restaurants, corner stores, what have you, are you concerned, and what is the plan in terms of some of the structural damage that is occurring, and that, the real concern is that so many of these jobs won't come back, and that we will have much higher unemployment rates? How do you try to kind of navigate that to make sure it doesn't occur?
Well, we are working to make sure that that we can rebuild this economy stronger. Part of that has been to provide unprecedented supports to small businesses, both on the expenditure side and on the revenue side. So, for example, on the expenditure side, providing supports for those businesses affected, small businesses, property tax support, electricity cost support. So we're through our programs there, and then in addition, on the revenue side, for those businesses affected, particularly through this lockdown, grants from $10,000 to $20,000. But thirdly, on top of that, there's been no greater champion for small businesses than Premier Ford, and for really everyone in our communities to buy local, to go to your local, support your local business through pickup, curbside pickup, through online. They're important parts of our community. And so we'll continue to not only support the small businesses till we get to the place where we can open up the economy, because the vaccines are here. And we'll have a lot more to say, of course, in part through the budget about that plan going forward.
Mm-hmm. Understood. when you take a look at the current assessment, though, of the economy and what you really believe is necessary in order to stimulate the economy, and for our viewers to understand, your background is business on Bay Street and also, of course, at DBRS when you actually had to downgrade Ontario debt back in 2009. So, perhaps give us your assessment in terms of, how you would rate our economy right now and how you really look to stimulate. It's not enough to survive. We need to thrive.
Well, I agree with you completely. We do have to thrive. So we've actually performed not too bad. It's obviously been very difficult for businesses, but on a relative basis, our economy, private sector economists have been thinking our economy in Ontario has been shrinking, obviously through this hard time by quite a margin. A number of jobs have come back, though. Not all the way that it was before, but we've got to exceed where we were before. So what are some of the things that we will encourage? Well, first of all, we've been cutting red tape wherever we can to make it easier for businesses. We've been cutting taxes, as I mentioned before, including recently exemptions for the employer health tax, the property tax as well, the small business tax, so that we can attract investment and continue to grow those jobs. Small businesses are great economic job creators. And also we're digitizing. I've been leading a modernization effort within government to basically take the online experience and expand it across all of government, because and it's part of our Ontario Onwards plan that Premier Ford and I launched back in October. So we're going to hit this with, we are hitting this with the action plan that we've put together. We're continuing to provide supports to families, the hardworking people of this province, the businesses, the workers. And then we'll start to really, as we did in the budget in November, focus on the recovery. Because I think the innovation that we have, the talent, the diversity of talent, our focus on Ontario being the economic engine of Canada, as it traditionally is where we're going to succeed.
Minister, I wanted to ask you, obviously the Ford government, and it's not just specific to the Ford government, we're seeing Jason Kenney deal with the issue today, the very issue that brought you to the job of finance minister, politicians traveling during vacation, the public outrage. How does the Ford government, your government, how does your ministry rebuild faith with the people of Ontario? Faith seems key right now at this stage of the pandemic in terms of all of us working together.
Well, we'll continue to do what we've been doing, Greg, is roll up our sleeves, working 24/7. There's many people working around the clock. You see Premier Ford, who's every day in front of the cameras. I'm speaking with you today. We are going to just continue to do the things that we feel are necessary to get through this. Ontarians are resilient. The vaccinations are job one. We're getting those out there. The rebuilding this economy, supporting our frontline healthcare workers. We're going to continue to do that, and of course we'll do it in a way that brings us out stronger. I'm very confident of that. I'm optimistic about 2021, but we got to get the first job done. Is that allow families to get back to normal, beat this pandemic, and then turn the corner and see around the corner a little bit that Ontario will rebound strongly, I believe, in 2021, and we'll be able to move forward.
Okay, Minister, I wanted to ask you too about, I know you're just a couple days into the job, a bit of a battlefield promotion, but I wanted to ask you on behalf of our marijuana reporter, I was wondering about Ontario's cannabis strategy. We still know, several years after the legalization of recreational pot, that the black market is still taking far too much of a share. Any idea on how you further facilitate that shift in cannabis sales over to the legal vendors?
Well, we're working on that. When the prohibition it was ended, it took a while that was a number of years ago, close to 100 years ago. It took a while for the markets to adjust. We're going to continue with our plan to obviously regulate and provide cannabis in a safe, practical way. And we're on our way doing that. And we'll continue to do that because that is what the people of Ontario wanted us to do. It's going to drive the illegal market down. It'll take time, and we'll do it in a way that's safe, not just for the users, but for families and for our whole community.